Did they make
No,
contact?
I don't know. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Right
Look at
there,
this.
moves
Wow.
him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again. The bump and run.
There it is.
Maine to really turn around, meant to Reilly's cage up.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you guys had yourselves a Christopher Buescher type of weekend. He was the big winner down in Bristol. Big old Fastenal weekend.
We've got sounds.
I told you I had a surprise to lift your spirits, Matt. We were all feeling a little rough on this Monday. Not sure if we were gonna make it through the podcast, but here we are, Monday night, getting ready to talk about a crazy fucking night in Bristol. But before we do, we got NASCAR news, our race reviews, our checkers and wreckers, and of course our pick a lane debate. And stick around for the end of the show. We give you our picks for the next race down in Texas, who we think is going to win. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, iTunes, all that stuff. We're there every Monday night. YouTube, we're there Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Follow us, bumpandrunpod.com, bump the letter and runpod.com. Fellas, how was your weekends? I saw Daytona Ron. He had a little Bristol party. Bristol night race party up at the Harding Hole. We went there for a little bit. But how about you, Matt? How'd you enjoy the weekend? How'd your football teams do and whatnot?
Oh, my God. I didn't think you'd ask. I'll tell you what. If there was any weekend for me to be happy that you just asked that question, it was this weekend, man. Notre Dame finally got their first victory. And then my New York Jets won a game yesterday that historically the New York Jets just don't win.
Oh yeah.
And they at the 2-minute warning left in the game, they were down 2 touchdowns. They ended up coming back and winning by a point. Obviously that's awesome because I never get to celebrate those kind of wins. And just to see that team do it, they've got some playmakers, they've got some young talent, and I'm excited for the future. It just finally the Jets gave me something to smile about. So sports weekend was great. Chase came in second at Bristol, so good sports weekend for me.
Do I want to ask about yours, Eric?
I'm wearing the shirt for a reason there, White man. I'm wearing the shirt for a reason.
Jaguars
24-0. Jags shut out the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow.
So the rare weekend where Eric and I can both be high-fiving because our teams won.
I saw a stat today. It's the first time since 2011 that the Jets, Jaguars, and Detroit Lions all won on the same weekend.
All right. We're turning things around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad for you guys. Big congratulations on that. Unfortunately, none of our drivers won this weekend, but Matt's wearing his Fastenal racing hat for a reason because he works for Fastenal. So it was a big win for the company. The first win for Fastenal, and I think the first win of the 17 car in a lot of years, right? Since Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at Daytona, maybe?
I'd say, yeah, because he was the last one in the car.
I think so. So big night for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, trying to get themselves back on track. At one point, I thought Brad Keselowski was going to win it. We'll jump into all that, but first, let's jump into the NASCAR news. And the biggest news story, probably the biggest news story of the year, Kyle Busch announced he's taking his talents to welcome North Carolina. He's going to be in the number 8 car. It makes me wonder, maybe Caterpillar's coming back. They said they already have some sponsorship lines up. I wonder if maybe Kyle Busch entices Caterpillar to come back. What do you guys think about that? And what do you guys think about just Kyle Busch going to RCR?
I hope Cat comes back, Whitey. I always love that paint scheme. I believe that paint scheme belongs on a NASCAR every week.
Yeah.
And, as far as it goes with Kyle going there, I guess it's a shock just because of all he's done for Toyota and Toyota racing in general. He has been their lifeline, the blood of Toyota, since he with KBM in his trucks, and, to see them just I don't know, let him go in a way after all that he's done. I guess that's the shocking part of it all. But, as the silly season moved on and, we kind of got the idea that, hey, I think Joe Gibbs is I think this is his plan all along, is to let Kyle go.
Yeah.
It became even more and more, realistic that he was going somewhere else. But switching from Toyota to Chevy, I mean, that's obviously a big thing too. But I think he'll do well. I mean, it's Kyle Busch. He's going to elevate the program no matter what. I mean, you of all people would know where that organization is going. And, I'd like to hear your opinion on what maybe you think Kyle Busch could do any different than Tyler Reddick could have, because I don't know, Reddick's the young up and comer and Busch is the one that's got to get it done now in his, the end of his career. So a shot, yes, but I think it was because of, how much he did for Toyota, and they kind of just let him go.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's hard to kind of gauge, what could Kyle Busch do that Tyler Reddick is. And obviously he's got a world of experience more than Tyler Reddick, But even during the press conference, I texted you guys, I go, Richard Childress is talking about getting Kyle Busch, comparing him to Dale Earnhardt. He's looking at 1994 Dale Earnhardt, and I think Kyle Busch right now is 1998 Dale Earnhardt. He might win the Daytona 500 in that RCR car, but he's probably going to struggle the rest of the season. One of those deals, because they have speed. That's proven, but it's the inconsistency. And is the inconsistency the driver or is it the team? I think that's what we're going to find out. And even you look at Kyle Busch's season, he's been super inconsistent too. Matt, what are you thinking? Am I off base here? Or?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Any way you look at it, cool that Kyle Busch is going to stay in the sport, in the Cup Series specifically. I don't ever think that was in question. He was going to land somewhere.
Yeah.
But now that all the pomp and circumstance is over and we know where he's going, let's look at this realistically. Kyle Busch just took a step backwards.
I think so. Yeah.
Richard Childress just took a step backwards. Not a knock on Kyle Busch. Obviously, he's one of the most talented top 5, 6, 7, 8 most talented drivers we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But where he's at in his career, you just touched on it. He's on the backside, and Tyler Reddick is on the upside of his career. And Tyler Reddick has a lot more wins in his future than Kyle Busch does, specifically where they're going, with where 2311 is compared to where RCR is. So am I, do I think Kyle Busch is going to win a few more races? Yeah, of course I do.
Absolutely.
You look at what both Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick have been able to win races this year. So to say that Kyle Busch isn't going to be able to is crazy. Of course he is. I just think that from a business standpoint too, Richard Childress played this thing so wrong, where he could have had a raw young talent in Tyler Reddick, paid him a lot cheaper than what he paid Kyle Busch, and he could have had him for a longer amount of time too. So it just, I don't know, the inner workings. I'm not there every day, but it just seems like Richard Childress, from a business side of things, just really played himself out of this one.
I think he made a mistake with Tyler Reddick. I think he knows that too, I think it bothers him a whole lot. And I think that's why, we're hearing some of just the little comments here and there. And then I think he really lucked out with Kyle Busch being available, because it was either go after Kyle Busch, a proven talent, and put him in the 8 car and hopefully everything clicks and everything runs real smooth, or you have to start all over again. Right. With either Austin Hill or maybe someone else, but that's who we were hearing early on, was Austin Hill is going to take that 8 car after Reddick leaves.
It's not I want to be clear too. I don't think it's a bad pickup.
No, but you could have.
Kyle Busch is a bad pickup for Richard Childress.
But business wise,
he had his golden ticket already in his stable, and he just let that golden ticket fly away in the wind. Yeah,
because he could have had Tyler Reddick way cheaper than I'm sure he got Kyle Busch for.
For a lot longer.
A lot longer too. So I think that's where he's oh man, he definitely messed up a little bit. But at the same time, now he's well, at least I got Kyle Busch. and he should win some races. The thing is, though, like, I'm worried about it. Like, over the last 3 years, Kyle Busch has 4 wins. You know, the season before that, he had 4 wins. So it's like, I don't want to say he's fallen off a cliff, but that's kind of what happens to some guys, you know, like he hasn't been going on streaks like he has. I mean, the only reason why he's in the playoffs is because Tyler Reddick got taken out at Bristol Dirt, you know? So, I mean, I don't know.
I'm wondering if maybe this has been going on longer than we all thought. And maybe his relationship with Joe Gibbs has been deteriorating for quite a while now.
It could be, yeah.
You know, once Ty kind of made his jump to, you know, Xfinity and you know, even his days down at ARCA, like winning all these races, I think the wheels were turning in Kyle's head already then. I think he knew at least one of them. And, you know, Kyle's one of those drivers where I could see him not really talking to Joe Gibbs the way Martin Truex might or Denny might. You know, Denny's going to talk to Joe Gibbs as a businessman and, you know, another owner of a team. And, you know, Truex, he's just a guy that I could see him just having conversations and just, hey, how's it going? Kyle Busch, though, I really don't think he developed a relationship with Joe Gibbs there. And I think that he was always the one on the outskirts. And like, you know, I kind of look at this scenario, and Matt will understand this. My Jacksonville Jaguars, they brought in Tom Coughlin to kind of be like the oversight president of the team and, you know, do personnel. And he's more of an old school guy. And he didn't want to re-sign a lot of our players. And guess what those players did? They went elsewhere. And that caused all the other free agents to not want to sign with Jacksonville because they knew, hey, we go there, they're not going to pay us. They don't care about us. This is a business.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same thing I'm seeing with Joe Gibbs. He's kind of running his team like a football team where, hey, you're just expendable. I'll get the next guy. I don't need you right now. And, you know, just like what Trackhouse and Daniel Suarez about commitment to me, believing in me. And like that type of scenario, maybe Kyle Busch just never had that relationship with Joe Gibbs and kind of just always put on that smile on that face in all the interviews. And, you know, I'm going to go out there and do what I do.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm thinking maybe it'll benefit Kyle going to RCR because he'll be the only one there, essentially.
He'll be the big dog, you know.
And I don't think he liked being on a 4-car team, having to share everything with everybody else. Now it's Kyle and Austin Dillon.
Yeah.
And Kyle's obviously going to get the top-notch shit there, and it's going to be him. He's not going to have to worry about teammate stuff and, hey, Kyle, do this week because we want to get this guy in and that guy in. I think we might see Kyle Busch. He might let him run wild and just do it. We might see old school, veteran, like young, badass Kyle Busch that Richard Schuster's like, hey, I don't give a shit. Do what you want to do, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, and back him up and just let him run wild out there. So, I could see it going both ways for Kyle.
I mean, that's why I love RCR. It's, you know, hard-nosed junkyard dog type racers, you know, like they're putting in the work. Like that's all they care about, you know?
And the reason I say that is because a lot of times in that interview, Kyle mentioned Richard Childress and RCR, they know who I am.
Yeah.
They know how I am. And he said that multiple times. So I'm assuming that was talked about.
Where it's like, yeah, like, bring you.
Right. Bring you. Don't hold back. Don't be this, you know, okay. No, I think Richard told him, I want Kyle fucking Busch to drive this 8-car. And if you're not Kyle fucking Busch, guess what? I don't want you. And I think maybe RC in a way, yeah, it's a bad deal, but maybe he lit a fire under Kyle fucking Busch's ass, and we might see him fucking coming out like Ross Shitstain and just smashing everybody out of the way.
I hope so.
There were some cringy moments in that press conference, though. Ooh.
Cringy, dude.
Oh,
I think I even texted that. I'm like, wow, this is cringe right now. Like with the whole Rolex thing, that was just like an RC, like, look at me. Like,
just
I want to show off and say, hey, kid, screw you. Look, I got money. I don't know. It was definitely, there were some moments.
I tell you what, it's a nice signing bonus, though. A little Rolex action, you know? I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens. I hope Reddick gets out of there at the end of the season and doesn't have to restart with the new crew chief and stuff. He
needs to get bought out. He needs to get, Denny needs to step up and buy that contract out because Tyler cannot be, it'll be a wasted year next year. I just feel like it'll be.
Can't have that hanging over his head all year long. Confidence level will go down. He needs, I mean, that's tough to call because of how wild this silly season has already been, man, it's like you don't even know what could happen next.
Yeah. He did his weekly interview with Larry Mack and Daniel Trotta on NASCAR Radio Sirius XM Channel 90. And he made a good point. He sounded deflated over the playoffs, but at the same time, like all the stuff for next year, he's like, it's business. You know, I was kind of expecting it, you know, build with Kyle while he's here. And then he goes, I'm going to use this as an opportunity because I've never had to get used to a new crew chief, get used to a new crew chief for a year, then go over to 2311 and do the whole thing again, you know, where like you kind of get that little extra experience to try to gel a little bit quicker, which I think could help. But at the same time, it also does feel like a completely wasted year, you know? So, I mean, I'm not too thrilled about that.
There's still a couple pieces of the puzzle that we don't know yet. We don't know sponsor. I know you guys said Cat. That'd be amazing to get Cat. Like, and I'll get into some sponsorship stuff later on in the episode, but it'd be amazing to see a sponsor like Cat, long lasting in the sport, come back. And then we also don't know, you know, where's the charter coming from? We've all assumed that it's going to come from Rick Ware Racing. Nobody knows yet. So a couple pieces left.
I kind of heard Spire.
Yeah, I'm hearing Spire because Rick Ware Racing's a Ford team. I don't know if they'll give it up. But I heard they might lease the 77 charter from Spire because they do have some connections with Spire and everything the way it is. So they'll probably be able to do something. I don't think a third car is actually going to happen. I think it's all leverage to negotiate with, you know.
I think so too. And the biggest piece may be what is Kurt Busch going to do?
What's Kurt going to do?
Fire, you know,
for real. So I texted you guys. My hopeful thinking is I hope Reddick goes over there a year early, takes over that 45 car, and maybe Kurt just does the open car for Daytona 500, get his last race in, his last goodbye, and then retire with the company or something like that. But who knows? Like, that's the thing. So far, since the whole playoff started, we haven't heard much about Kurt Busch's status right now and what's going to happen. Obviously, I don't think he's coming back for the rest of the year. They kind of made it clear that Ty's going to be in that car, except for some non-monster sponsored races that might have maybe John Hunter Nemechek in it or something like that. But then at the same time, it's like, what happens to John Hunter Nemechek in the trucks? What happens to all the KBM truck drivers? You know, those guys are all under Toyota contracts. There goes that pipeline. Still a lot of pieces to the puzzle to fall into place, but we'll keep you updated on that one. Something we've been waiting for to happen for a while. They finally released the 2023 NASCAR schedule. Not a whole lot of changes. A couple races flip-flopped here and there. I think Indy Road Course is getting switched with Richmond. So now Indy Road Course is going to be back-to-back with Watkins Glen later on in the season. Not too thrilled about two road courses being right next to each other. I wish they would break those up a little bit.
Two road courses followed by Daytona. The last three races of the regular season's kind of meh.
But some wild cards, though. Definitely some wild card races. That should be interesting.
Once again, them making it like that, entertainment.
Yep,
they're looking for the wild
they're
not looking for legitimacy at all if they're scheduling that at the end of the race. They want the mayhem. They want exactly what they got this year, next year.
Yeah, if next year's any indication, or if this year's any indication of what next year's going to look like, you better lock that win in early.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the big changes, of course, the Chicago Street Race. We talked about that in past episodes, and North Wilkesboro going to be the All-Star Race, and we talked about that last week. Dale Jr. Stressed it again. He goes, you know, you got to have some concessions here. You gotta remember where we're going. It's not going to be the most up-to-date facility and everything. So please bear in mind, if you are going to the All-Star Race in 2023, you plan to, it's going to be the hottest ticket you could get in NASCAR for sure. But don't expect state-of-the-art facilities. So keep that in mind.
No, I think it gets hotter in Phoenix.
Bring a cooler. Fill it with ice, make some sandwiches.
No. What was that sounder?
That was the sad trombone for your terrible joke.
I thought that joke deserved a better fate.
Anyways, some news that affects Eric's team. Petty GMS announces they will be using Joe Gibbs pit crews next season. So it's kind of interesting. 2311 said we're going to stop using Joe Gibbs pit crews next year, hire our own guys. Now Petty GMS is saying, oh, we're going to get our pit crews from Gibbs. So maybe you guys might get some old 2311 guys. Eric, what are you thinking about that?
I was kind of shocked because I thought that, at least from what I know, I watched the 43. I thought the 43's crew was outstanding. I thought they did an excellent job every week. I mean, we all know about the old, that right rear tire that was stuck on it, and that dude coming I thought that team works really well, and they get him out on pit road. Not many issues. They take their time, and it just seemed a little weird. I mean, I know it's Toyota and Chevy, and I know that they do that all the time with teams. Like they lease them out all over the place. So yeah, that's not a major concern, but it still blows my mind that they are going out of their way to hire Joe Gibbs when they've had so many issues this year. And I
wonder if maybe it's for just the 42 car. And they'll keep the 43 guys. I didn't read the whole article.
The 42 car already started using them as of Kansas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Eric Jones isn't going to use them until next year, but the 42 is already using a Joe Gibbs pit crew.
Okay, I missed that part then.
Yeah, I mean, it's just pit crews. They always go for even the Xfinity, their Cup
they
crews.
They get traded like crazy, and you never hear anything of it.
Right, and the thing that surprised me was just all the issues. We saw, Bubba had a switch with Christopher Bell, and then Denny Hamlin, the countless amount of, issues that he's had on pit road. And, the really only solid one was Kyle Busch's 18 crew has always just been stellar. And, now they just switched with Denny Hamlin for the rest of the playoffs since Kyle is out. And that to me is huge. And, I think that I texted you guys earlier about that, where I think that might be the missing key for Denny to maybe finally get his first championship.
Yeah, that was going to lead me to my next piece of news. I forgot to put it on the rundown, but Denny Hamlin is getting Kyle Busch's pit crew for the rest of the playoffs. Of course, Kyle Busch still wants to win races, but not as important as Denny Hamlin's championship run here. And maybe this is the year he gets it done. Like you said, Kyle Busch's pit crew's been absolutely lightning. And ever since the Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace swap too, they switched two guys on each one of those crews. They've both been performing really well. I mean, Bubba had issues with the car this week. Obviously, we'll get into the steering problems that Toyota had. But yeah, I think it's a good move for them at least, And who knows? Maybe Eric Jones and that crew will get an even better pit crew. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm hoping. I'm going to stay optimistic about it and think that, the guys that are coming from Gibbs, they're getting trained. They're there constantly. And, I don't know about the choreography. We talked on that a little early in the season, how they changed the way that they were doing their stops to maybe get a little bit more speed and be a little bit more fluid on a stop. So we'll see if they carry that over to their stops as well. But, we'll see next year.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Speaking of next year, Kyle Larson has no worries for next year or the year after that or the year after that or the year after that because he signed a contract extension until 2026. 4 years he's signed on for. We keep hearing a lot of long-term contracts being signed, but we haven't heard numbers like this. I'm wondering if this is going to be the new trend or if it's just, Mr. H really wants to keep, him and Chase in the stable as long as possible. Matt, you're the resident Hendrick fan. How you feeling about that one?
Good. I mean, you have a world-class talent like Kyle Larson. You got to keep him. I mean, I know Chase locked up a 5-year deal. Larson has a 4-year deal, and I believe, Byron signed a 3-year deal, and then Alex Bowman has a contract year coming up next year. So depending on what he does the rest of this year and then the early part of next year, we'll see what happens. But they've got a young, talented stable. Yeah. I know there's rumors always floating around about what's going to happen with Bowman. He's kind of the black sheep, if you will. I disagree with that. I think he's talented as hell. He's got to get a little bit more consistent. But I think that's a talented young stable, and if Mr. Hendrick knows how to run a team, which he obviously does, I think he's going to lock up Bowman for a long haul too.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with Alex Bowman as a driver. Right. I think the problems we've been seeing over the last couple of months were a team issue and setups or something like that. Because ever since he had
a run of bad luck too. That's just
just getting taken up in other people's wrecks and stuff. Poor qualifying leads to just putting yourself in bad situations like that. And maybe they just missed the mark off the setup. But since the playoffs started, I mean, 10th at Darlington, 4th at Kansas. He was running super well Saturday night before getting caught up in that wreck and stuff. But like, other than that, man, I've been super impressed by Alex Bowman.
The biggest thing with Bowman too is, don't forget, and it can't be understated, the relationship that he has with Ally. Ally is a huge financial backing at Hendrick Motorsports, and they have a really good relationship with Bowman.
Yeah.
So if you bring those dollars and you bring the sponsorship with you, and even just a little bit of talent, let alone a lot of talent like Bowman has, I think he'll eventually get locked up too. But to sum it all up, Mr. Hendrick knows when he has talent to not let go of him. You look at Jimmy was there forever. Jeff was there forever. Casey was there for a long time. Junior was there for the back half of his career. So when he has talent and he has marketability in his drivers, he keeps them.
Yeah, something I didn't realize, I found this out a couple weeks ago. I told you about this, Matt, but Ally Bank is that's GM Financial. That's the old GMAC car we used to see. That's Ally Finances for Chevy dealerships and stuff like that, which I wasn't aware of. So it makes all the more sense why Hendrick alone is such a strong partner with Ally and everything like that. So I think as long as Mr. H wants to keep him and Ally's happy, I think he'll be pretty safe. I mean, he's such a talented driver. Honestly, it's just like, like you said, a string of bad luck here and there, I mean, how many,
it's hard not to compare him to the top two, with Larson and Elliott, but it's also hard probably being in that stable with everyone always comparing you. Well, you're not doing what they're doing. You're not doing what they're doing.
Someone always has to be the fourth car,
Right.
It's just one of those things.
To me,
he's like Eric Jones at Gibbs,
No, he kind of reminds me of Truex, where when Truex, we knew he had speed a couple years ago, and he just kept having such bad luck.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's going to happen for him. It's going to happen for him. It's going to happen for him. And then all of a sudden, he starts winning races, and everyone's like, okay, Truex, okay, he might be legit. And then over those next 3 years, he just went and straight up started dominating. And, I could kind of see that, but I think Truex kind of had to just figure out who he was. Now that he's comfortable, he has a team that he's solidified in that 19 car. And I think he was able to just get a little bit of his confidence and really, like Matt said, get a little bit more consistent. And I could see that in Alex Bowman. Like, he's getting the wins here and there, has the talent to do it. He just has to really believe in himself, hunker down, be like, okay, I'm here. This is what I got to do, and just get a little bit more consistent. And I could see him maybe rattling off a bunch of wins in these next few years once he really settles into himself and realizes, hey, I belong in the Cup Series. What am I even second guessing stuff for? I'm going to go out there on Sunday and I'm going to do what I do best. And I think he'll have a long career in this sport, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a matter of time till all things start clicking and firing on all cylinders, But that's all I have for NASCAR news. Let's jump into the NASCAR weekend. It was a big one down in Bristol. Truck race Thursday night. Did any of you guys get to check out the truck race Thursday night, or are you watching football?
I was in bed.
Yeah.
Football for me. That Thursday night feels like it was 17 months ago.
Yeah, and it was a 9 p.m. race, which was a little late on.
We're closer to this upcoming Thursday than we were the past Thursday.
That's true. Well, since you missed it, I missed it also. Ty Majeski won. So big congratulations to him. Friday night Xfinity race. I caught a little bit of it on the radio, and then I caught the end, which was awesome. Noah Gragson pulling it off for the third week in a row. We'll get into that in a minute. And then, of course, the Cup race Saturday night. Chris Buescher led twice for 169 laps, 3 hours, 1 minute, 7 seconds, 11 cautions for 80 laps, 12 lead changes only among 6 different drivers. So not a whole lot of action up front. Your top 5, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson rounding out the top 5. Fellas, what'd you think about the race? I was up at the Harding Hole up at Daytona Ron's, and I enjoyed watching the race with everybody, but I don't know if I was really enjoying the racing on track. Do you want to jump into the race grades, and we'll see if you feel like I felt?
Yeah, I'll go. I gave the race a C. Did it have a lot of excitement? Sure. Did it have a lot of drama? Sure. What they should have called this race was the Mascara 500, because all the drama and the excitement did a really good job of masking a really dull race.
Yeah.
There was, as you said, there was very little passing. I just came up with that on the fly, by the way.
That was really good.
Go ahead, hit me with the bad joke thing again. Okay.
That was a great one.
So yeah, I mean, there just wasn't much passing. Once the leader got out there, he was gone. There was just a ton of drama to talk about. All the playoff drivers, it seems like, had issues at some point or another. It was just wild. It was just a wild Saturday night. And it was one of those races, you know, for you guys being with a bunch of people, that it was like the perfect race to be on at a party like that. I was at home at the couch with the baby, so I was watching every lap, and I was just like, I was fighting back, trying to stay awake, and it was just like every time I would nod off, oh, look, a tire blew. Okay, I'm back into it.
Yeah,
or
you get woken up because they're yelling about the caution, you know?
Right. So it wasn't the worst race, right? It wasn't awful, but, you know, if it wasn't for all the crazy stuff that happened, it probably would have gotten a lot worse grade for me.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Eric?
It's also, the last thing I'll say, too, is I have such high expectations. You know, I've mentioned on this show several times that the Bristol night race specifically is my favorite race of the year. You know, maybe it's because we were there a few years ago and it was just such an enjoyable time. I don't know. It's usually such an exciting time, especially because it's in the playoffs and there's beating and there's banging. I'd hate to say it, that dirty word, but this short track, quote unquote, package that they have. I know it's not a package,
working.
But it's not working. Something isn't. This next gen car on short tracks just is not working, and it's unfortunate because I really thought that we were going to have a way better race on our hands.
I tell you what, since you brought it up, like going down, I was thinking about that today. I bet you it was an amazing race to watch live in the grandstands with all the chaos where it's like, oh man, what can happen next? Like, you know, the feeling like when something happens in the stands, you're hitting your buddy next to like, oh, holy shit, a tire's going down. You know, it adds that excitement and kind of, like you said, it masks a bad race. But yeah, watching at home, like, especially like, after I left the party and I went home to watch the last 150 or 200 laps or so, it was a struggle, to be honest with you. How about you, Eric? What's your score for the weekend?
I mean, Matt, like you said, I put that towards my race grade. I hold this race near and dear to my heart, and I have very, very high expectations when they go to Bristol at night, especially in the playoffs. It is honestly like a kid on Christmas morning feeling, knowing what you're going to get out of that race. And it just was a big whiff in my eyes. There was strategy didn't matter. Tires didn't matter. It all came down to whose car failed and whose car didn't. You just had to drive the car until it gave out. And that's what Truex said and Denny said. And like, it wasn't about being able to pass. I mean, you were able to pass. It was hard. You know, like Brad Keselowski said, you were able to pass, but it was hard. It should be hard to pass. But this car, like Matt said, at short tracks, they didn't get it. But Bristol really, really exposed this car because Bristol's an animal. It is not like any other track we go to. The amount of load that these cars go into, getting into these turns And I think that's where the steering issues with Toyota came into play, because they just didn't expect the amount of load on these cars and still having to steer and go through the turn. And it was an epic whiff in my eyes. And I had to take that into consideration. And, without those tires blowing, which that sucked in my eyes. I mean, every once in a while you want that to happen. A mechanical failure is good for a race. I feel like it adds that element to it, but it went from an element to the race to, oh my God, this is a problem for the race. And it breaks my heart to even say this. I gave it a D.
Wow.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
And like, I know I was pretty tuned up during the race and, at the party at my house.
Yeah, you were.
But Whitey, we were paying attention. We were watching it. I remember when the Blaney stuff in the beginning happened, and then I remember
we were
saying,
screaming like, hey, someone needs to black flag this guy. Like, as he's
and I'm
throwing
like, dude, his
stuff.
tires going down. And then, when Brad was out front, I'm like, Brad got a car tonight. And you're like, oh, it's strategy. And then, I was aware enough to be like, later on, I'm like, wait a minute, he's still running up front. Why'd I go? That strategy must have panned out. He's got a fast car. He was able to stay up front. And then like, there was little moments for like our type of fan that's like a next level, where we're looking at certain little things that maybe other people aren't, that kind of kept me into it. But for the most part, even the restarts, they were like, okay. I've seen way more exciting restarts elsewhere. And usually Bristol, you're like, okay, who's gonna be battling here? Who's gonna push it? Who is going to not let someone get to the inside of them and really push them up the racetrack and keep them on their outside? And the main thing why I gave it a D was really the last 60 laps of that race was boring as shit.
Just strung out.
There was nothing. There was nothing in the last 60 laps at Bristol. The last 60 laps at Bristol, zero entertainment. Zero, it's like there was no oh shit moment. I was not on the edge of my seat. I was never like, what's going to happen next? This guy and that guy, they battled in the beginning. Now they're back up there because of strategy. Who's going to pay? Like, there was none of that. Absolutely zero. And for Bristol, man, that really, it broke my heart to see Bristol put on such a shitty race on the racetrack. So, I had to give it what I had to give it. And it's a D in my eyes. Like, and that's because I hold it high, and the last 60 laps really made me think about giving it that D.
I think the Gluck poll only got a 63% yes.
It was the 12th out of 13th worst race at Bristol. The only other worst Bristol race was the All-Star race 2 years ago, and did the lights and they moved the number.
Yeah, that's not a good sign at all.
No, it's not. Damn it.
Whatchamacallit?
They got to figure that out, because
they got to figure that out.
We're about to introduce a whole new short track in 2 years too, so they got to figure it out.
So I forgot to mention that during the news. They are going forward with the plan to reconfigure Auto Club Speedway into a short track out in California, which, looking at it now, it's like, man, don't do it. What you reminded me of, though, there was a quote. I believe it was from Kevin Harvick. I was trying to find it on my phone. I couldn't find where I saw it. But one of the drivers said they were carrying too much speed in the corners, where it was impossible to set up a pass. And I think that's why we saw such shitty racing, to be honest with you. Not much passing. I gave it a C-, and then I started out my race grade. Every week I start out with my outline from the week before, and I didn't even have to change like the first sentence. The chaos with the tires was entertaining, but we didn't see many battles for the lead. Only 4 green flag passes for the lead. This is that's where I had at the Bristol stuff. Last week, at least we had battles in the middle of the pack to make up for it. And I feel like we really didn't see too many battles in the middle of the pack. I did find those various pit strategies kind of interesting in stage 1. But like you said, Eric, it really didn't matter. It was kind of all about track position. Once you stayed out and you got shuffled to the front, you stayed up front, and those tires and the different strategies really didn't matter at all, which was very disappointing to see. But But it was interesting to see like something at least happening. It seemed the best way was just to stay out as long as possible and get that track position. Every time we got some sort of rhythm in the race, that's when another tire issue would come into play. So I mean, I don't know, kind of just a dud, especially like you guys said for Bristol, which we always kind of expect to be, you know, this crazy intense playoff race, which there was some interesting things, of course, with the cutoff line and Kyle Busch wrecking, and then the big one with Daniel Suarez and all those guys, and Tyler Reddick, of course, got caught up in that, and Austin Dillon and a whole bunch of other guys.
Just lost it. He just lost it, and he overcorrected, and there was just nothing that he could have fucking done. You know, I mean, it was a shame to see that, because I feel like at that point in the race is when it really started getting crazy for people, and with the playoff cutoff, it was just like, okay, it was nuts up until that point. But then, like, that just added that other element, like, oh, now it just went overboard.
Yeah, and then my bracket got busted pretty much. Not really, but the round of 12 guys, they got taken out a little early. But that's what I thought about the race. I thought about giving it a C. I knocked it down to a C- in the end. I wouldn't give it a D. I don't think it was that bad. But I understand why you did give it a D, so I get that too. But you guys want to jump into the checkers and wreckers now?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to give my checkers and wreckers first, because I haven't done that in a while. Figure switch it up a little bit. I'm giving my checkers Noah Gragson. I got to. I have to. Because
what a run he's been on. Oh, my gosh.
So usually I don't dip into the Xfinity or Truck Series for my checkers and wreckers, but I was just, you know, I was thinking about the race at Bristol, and there wasn't really anything during the Cup race that stood out to me. You know, did you guys struggle trying to figure out your checkers this weekend, besides like maybe giving it to Chris Buescher and RFK? Because I was really struggling.
It was weird because there was more wreckers with the tires and the mayhem than there was good racing, or like, I can't say, oh, give my checkers to this guy because look at this pass he made.
He made this move, like, oh, the crew chief called this one right. Yeah, same thing. Like, I did my usually I do my checkers first and then I do my wreckers, and usually I have to think like really hard for my wreckers. My wreckers came out no problem, and then my checkers, I'm like, man, what do I do? Got to give it to Noah Gragson, dude, though. The dude is on fire this whole season, but he won the last 3 races in a row. I know last week was rain shortened, but still, I just hope he can win the championship before moving up to Cup. I think he's running so well. Obviously, it's probably going to come down to him and Ty Gibbs and like AJ Allmendinger. But man, I think Noah Gragson gets it done, and I want to see it. I want to see him get that 9 car into victory lane at Phoenix and get that championship. And then my wreckers, just the lack of passing, you know, just a bad short track race, racing all year long. You know, we need to fix it for next season for sure. I don't know how you fix it, but something's got to get done. I don't know, maybe you take that diffuser off and create some less downforce on these cars, something. But man, if we have to watch how many more short tracks in this car, I don't know, man. We got Richmond, we got Martinsville, we got Bristol, and so far those are the 3 races that have not been good, you know?
And, you know, Brad nailed it in the end of his press conference where he said, if the car next year looks like it does right now, then we failed. For sure. And I couldn't agree more with Brad saying that. They you know, the owners don't want to hear it, like he said, because it costs money to fix the cars.
But that's coming from an owner right there, you know?
Yeah, they need to constantly be improving the car. I mean, Brad said it's a new car, so it's not going to be perfect. But, you know, he stated too, and like he was very calm about it, which Brad always is when it comes to the business side and an owner side. He understands racing and how to build these cars and make them go faster. So as long as Brad is involved, I feel like we're in good hands with this new car and this next gen car. But he said there's a camp of the next gen car is total garbage. There's nothing you could do about it. It's done for. And then there's a camp of the next gen car. It fixed everything. The racing's been great. Don't touch a thing. And he's like, I'm in the middle where there's a little good. There's a little bad. There's still room for improvement, and we need to improve. So, I don't want to just chalk it up completely to to the I guess you have to though with the short tracks. Like I don't want, like Matt said, I don't want 2 packages for I just want a car. Just put a car out there, you know. So whatever they do to change that, I think they got to do it, and they got to do it quick.
More intermediate tracks. We got to go back to the early 2000s.
At this point, though, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because the car runs great on them.
If the car runs great on that, I am fine with that. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, until they figure out a way to get the short tracks better, at least I get to see good racing elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like, I could trick my mind into being like, okay, we might have 4 dud races a year, but you know, and I'll take that instead of 4 epic races a year and, you know, 12 duds. I'll flip that in reverse in a heartbeat.
Yeah. The problem is now we have a whole shit ton of road courses too, and this car didn't do too great on road courses either. Like,
and that's what it was supposed to do the best at, which is
so far it's hit that one like way off the mark. I mean,
right. So that's kind of what Brad was saying. They checked some boxes off for sure. They definitely checked some boxes and got some great racing. And, you know, I just think people, and what he's saying is they just need to be a little bit open-minded, be like, this car still has a lot of issues that need to be wrinkled out.
Yeah, I agree. So how about your checkers and wreckers?
My checkers goes to Brad Keselowski.
For saying that?
Not for his, you know, performance on the racetrack, which I very well could have given it to him. He led 100 and some laps. You know, his teammate
led twice for 109 laps.
And the, you know, his car 17 car, they won the race. They were both up there running great all day long. So yeah, he deserved it for that. But I gave it to him for believing in Chris Buescher.
Yeah.
I read an interview afterward where he said 8 years ago for the Wood Brothers ride, he wanted him, and he really said, hey, this is a guy I think would do really well in your car, and was, you know, vouching for him. And, you know, when he signed the deal to become an owner for, you know, Roush, you know, Keselowski Racing, he said the first thing he did was put a contract in front of Buescher. And to me, that is everything. Look at, and I say it again, and this is kind of little in the beginning of the show, Justin Marks and Trackhouse with Daniel Suarez. When you believe in somebody in the confidence, it means a lot. Eric Jones at Petty GMS. Yeah. They believe in him. They want him there. He responded to that. It's perfect. So, like, I just think this relationship that Brad has with Chris Buescher, the belief system he has in him, he doesn't need to win now. And that's what I like about Brad. Brad knows this sport. He's been around. He doesn't get bent out of shape. He can hear the burn. Oh, you're not doing this. Why isn't, you know, Brad Keselowski and Roush, why aren't you guys struggling? He's like, new car, new year, new ownership. I know this is going to happen. I'm not worried about it. We're going to learn this year. We're going to build on it. And they've gradually gotten better. And he just constantly lifts his team up and Chris Buescher up and always praises them. And you see Buescher getting better every week. So I just have to praise these guys like Brad and Justin Marks and, you know, the Gallagher family for just believing in somebody and giving them, you know, an opportunity to see what their full potential is inside that car. And I just thought that was cool for Brad. So I gave him my checkers for that.
I like that.
My records has to go to this single lug. I know I stated all year long that it was shit, that it didn't really mean much to me, that get over it, Eric. It's, you know, it's a change. It's going to happen, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But man, they didn't even try to re-engineer it or design it throughout the season. Like they could have been actively working on it. And that pin system is just not the way to go. I feel like those little red pins, and we've talked about it on here. And if you're a new listener, there's the springs, they're pins, and that's what locks the wheel. The tire goes over it, those pins pop back open, that locks the wheel on from coming off. And you saw it at Sunday night. Kevin Harvick was in a must-win situation. He needed to win to advance. He was gonna win that race in advance. Those pins didn't come back out.
Yeah,
that wheel would not lock in there. They tried it, and guess what? It cost that team and that driver an opportunity to go for a championship and continue on. And, you know, it's just something I think they really need to look at and fix and either complete redesign, which I know it costs a lot of money, and that's what Brad said. And but it's something that needs to be done. This is a critical part of racing is pit road, and that is something that I enjoy watching as a race fan is pit road, and you never want to see something like that ruin your driver's day, but let alone someone else's, or that just it leaves a sour taste in your mouth when something like that happens. I can only imagine, Roddy Childers and what Kevin Harvick, we're going through, like, oh, this is what's going to do it. And yes, that happens. That's the sport. But man, that one lug, the way that it's engineered, I just think that that's a problem going into next year that they really need to resolve.
So Eric is referring to a Rodney Childress tweet. He put a video up saying his crew didn't make any mistakes, and it was the locking pins that didn't fire. He's since deleted that tweet. I don't know why, but when I watched that video, that gun spun the same way to take the lug off and to put it on.
NASCAR makes them take it down all the time because, I follow a lot of crew chiefs, I follow a lot of spotters, and they tweet shit, and guess what? The next day, they're like, yeah, I'm putting
the tinfoil hat on, though. I'm putting the tinfoil hat on. I don't think that fucking crew guy switched that gun, and I think it spun in the same direction, and it never had a chance to lock on. And
I wish I saved the video, Whitey, because when you texted me that, I went back, I watched it, and it started going to the right. As we went to put it on, it started going back to the left. And I'm positive that would be a reverse thread on a tire like that, because the rotation of the wheel, you don't want the threads to be the same. You want it to be opposite. So it would be opposite to start, and then it would go back. And I saw it switch. So that's why I kind of said, okay, yeah, he has a point here. But it is a very good opportunity to throw that hat on, though. I'm not against that.
And like I probably watched this fucking video at least like 7 or 8 times.
Super slow motion.
And not only did I watch it, I started pausing it and like moving the slider myself so I could see which way. It's really hard to see the orange tape on this gun. They have orange tape on the gun, and you kind of get an idea of the direction it was going in. And I swear, man, it never changed directions. I honestly think the crew guy just didn't switch the gun and they lost it. And I think Ronnie was putting that video out there to save face and for when they go to the appeals to try and convince them. Because how could you look at that video and say, oh, the pin system failed? Because you never saw the lug go forward on the hub. It never went forward. So in my mind, it was just spinning in reverse. And that's why it never locked onto any of the threads or anything like that. I think he just put that out there to help the appeals process. I really do. I wish you guys could watch the video. It's been deleted. I was gonna watch it again, and I was gonna retweet it, but I don't know, man. I don't know, because here's the thing:
pins aren't working. That wheel, you're not gonna get to the threads. I think that's what he was getting at. If those pins are there, and you go to put the wheel on, and you're not gonna get. But how? You're not gonna be able to get to the threads.
But how is he gonna be able
to come out?
But here's the thing: They reversed the car. They put it back on the next time. Honestly, I think what's going on, because we haven't seen wheel up problems on the hub in, I don't know, maybe 20 races. That was an early season thing. And then the crew guys figured out, oh, you got to be a little bit more careful. You gotta, slow down just a hair to make sure they're on. I think the last race we saw major issues was probably Dover or maybe one of the road courses. I forget. And now we're in the playoffs. Now the money stop is that much more important. And who needed that money stop more than anybody that night? Kevin Harvick. I think it was just fucking error. I think it was. But I don't know. I wasn't there.
I'm gonna believe Rodney Childers, the crew chief, over you. That's I'm sorry, but that's just what I'm gonna go with.
Hey man, all right, I get it. No worries. How about you, Matt? Real quick, what's your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
So my checkers goes to, again, Fastenal Racing, not because of any of my clear-cut biases in my relationship with that company, But it goes to them and really any other sponsor out there that hangs in there through the tough times.
Yeah.
Fastenal's been a sponsor with Roush for over a decade now, and they finally got their first cup win this past Saturday. So, much like a young team like Trackhouse or 2311 having success on the sponsor side of things, it's good for these other sponsors, whether it's a potential sponsor or a sponsor that's been in the sport for a long time, maybe thinking about bailing because they haven't had success. It's good seeing a sponsor like Fastenal finally win because it gives all these other sponsors that belief, that hope that, hey, if they can do it, we can do it too. We can finally maybe one day find ourselves in victory lane too. So healthy sponsorship is good for the sport, obviously. So, obviously, yeah.
Look at McDonald's. You know what I mean? How long were they in it? And then they finally got their win. So
the exact same thing. The exact same thing. So, yeah, it doesn't matter who the sponsor is. It's just the fact that we have sponsor loyalty and that they're staying with the sport and then it finally pays dividends.
I think good. I think what helps too is the fans are very loyal to the sponsors who sponsor NASCAR. I know we would always joke on Sundays, oh, you got to get the golden arches to support Kyle Larson when he was driving the car. Now I get golden arches on Sundays to support Bubba or Kurt or whoever's running that McDonald's scheme. If I need some bolts, I'm calling up Matt to get my supply chain in order. This is a crazy time. Supply chain's been disrupted more than ever. I know that I could count on Fastenal to be Fastenal fast and get me my my PPE or my Loctite, my bolts, anything I need. So. But no, for real, I agree. I think it's very important that sponsors show loyalty and then the fans show loyalty to those sponsors. I only get Sunoco gas for a reason.
And then my wreckers, it goes to all the playoff drivers not named Christopher Bell. I believe Christopher Bell had a 3rd, 4th, and 5th place finish in the first round, not in that order.
Killing it, man. He's killing it.
But he had 3 top 5 finishes in the first round of the playoffs. Everybody else has been very inconsistent. Everyone else has had problems. Everyone else has had, either shot themselves in the foot or they're just not running well or they're unloading without speed and they're qualifying bad and then getting themselves caught up in something. Or you look at even Chase Elliott having, the only reason why he finished 2nd the other day at Bristol is because of all the attrition that happens, because everyone else blew a tire and exited the race or had engine problems or had pit road troubles, and Chase just happened to not have those things happen to him. So they better get it together. That's become the show motto is get it together. They better get it together, or we're going to see some more surprise early exits in the next round, and we're going to have someone, everyone better be careful because guess what? Christopher Bell is well on his way to winning a championship this year because he's doing it clean, unlike everybody else right now.
And I'm here for it, baby. I told you guys, I got to get my Christopher Bell shirt for the rest of the playoffs. I'm on the Bell train since Reddick is out, and I have Bell going to the round of 4 in my bracket. I think he's the sleeper this year.
If Christopher Bell wins the championship this year too, I mean, look at the last 3 winners that would make Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, how young those guys are. I mean, sport, you want to talk about, sponsors and having a healthy sponsorship with the sport, the drivers themselves, the sport's in really, really good hands. And again, like I said last week with the crowds, again, we had another amazing crowd at Bristol. The sport is in a really, really good position right now. And it just that part makes me super excited.
It is. And to reiterate, Christopher Bell's performance on Saturday night led 4 times for 143 laps. Chris Buescher, the only person that led more than him at 169. So you had those 3 guys, Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, and Christopher Bell, and they pretty much led the whole entire thing with a guy here and there for like maybe 5-10 laps or maybe 30 laps. I think someone led, Kyle Larson led twice for 34 laps. I think that was the most after those guys. So yeah, just another young guy. The youth movement is on display in NASCAR, and we're all here for it, I think. Just nothing but exciting things to come. All right. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have much else to talk about, honestly. Kind of an uneventful, eventful race, really, besides the playoff stuff. But yeah, let's
Whitey, wait a minute, buddy.
Yeah.
What's going through your head? Let's hear from the resident Tyler Reddick fan. Done.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Come on, the fans want to know.
Absolute devastation. And you want to know what? I blame myself. We were all.
I blame you too.
we were all in the garage. We were having a good time, and Kyle Busch goes out and just blows up oil all over the track, which I've never seen oil coming out of the exhaust tips like that.
That was wild,
like crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, our buddy Jay, big Kyle Busch fan, he's there. And I don't like busting balls about driver misfortunes, but I was like, yes, because I needed it. All fucking race. I couldn't tell you where anyone was running besides that cutoff. That's all I was looking at, was whether Reddick was -2, -6, going up, but never in the green. And I go, fuck yeah, Kyle Busch is out. That's what we need. Let's go. And I'm fucking celebrating and having a great time.
The whole garage was going nuts. Like, oh, Kyle Busch, we're all flipping Jay off. We're
And I wasn't flipping Jay off because I don't like doing that either. I feel bad. And then he goes, hey, what? Because I was getting ready to leave too. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get going. Gotta go let the dog out of the crate, and I'm just gonna watch the rest on the couch, you know. And he goes, Whitey, wait for this restart. We're behind a couple laps, bud. I go, great. Because now I know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know Reddick's not going to make it through whatever happens. And sure enough, fucking Daniel Suarez gets loose and Austin Dillon pounds into the back of Tyler Reddick. I tell you what was interesting during his interview with Danielle and Larry Mack today. He said he tried to avoid things and it caught the right side. It just caught the side, you know? And he goes, I bet you with how strong the noses are and how strong the bumpers are, we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, they're much stronger than they used to be, where you'd get into a front impact and it would knock off the water cooler and stuff. That doesn't happen now. That these cars are a lot tougher in the front and the back. Probably why they're getting such bad, hard hits, you know? Because if I just hit them head on, I think I would have been able to survive the race and move on, which just hearing that is a total heartbreaker on top of it. And then to be 2 points out, he was 2 points out last year from making the round of 12. So again, same heartbreaking deal, bad night in Bristol. And then you hear Steve Letarte say, you know, he would have got 5 bonus points for winning that Bristol dirt race. And the wheels are churning. I go, yeah, he probably would have gone in. But at the same time, you can't think like that because Kyle Busch then wouldn't have made it into the playoffs. Martin Truex would Martin Truex have knocked off Tyler Reddick? That's math you have to do at another time. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't think so because he had a really bad Darlington in Kansas too, right?
But dude, here's the thing. Like, yes, I understand when people bring up like, oh, it's only 3 positions here. It's only 3 positions there. Yeah. Like, I get that, but that's such a simplified way
because you have to think of everybody else.
Because everybody, there's it shook out the way it shook out. You know, yes, it's only 3 positions here or there, but what if? I don't know, Chase Elliott finished 4 positions worse in one race, you know, so there's so many different ways you can look at it. Like, you can kill yourself looking at it's only 3 positions here, 3 positions there.
Here's a shower thought off topic for you guys to think about. Ask your parents if they ever thought about moving somewhere and start thinking about it. Cause I found out when I was younger, my parents almost moved over across the bridge to a different town and into a Blueberry Hill, like housing, little townhouses and stuff.
2 minutes away from me.
I know. Well, now we would, but I started thinking about what if I moved to Blueberry Hill when I was a kid and we moved into those townhouses. Like, I would go to a different school. I'd meet all different people. I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I probably wouldn't even watch NASCAR, you know? You start thinking about the what ifs. Same thing with the point situation, you know. Yeah, what if he finished 2 points here, won this race at Auto Club, which he should have, or he won at Bristol where he should have, or he won last week at Kansas when he probably should have, you know. But then you have to start thinking like, well, but but then Martin Truex would be in the playoffs, and maybe he wouldn't have gotten himself into trouble at this race or this race, you know?
You can beat yourself up over it thinking about it, but at the end of the day, it shook out the way it shook out.
I tell you what he shouldn't have done. He shouldn't have pushed Austin Dillon to the fucking win in Daytona. That's what he shouldn't have done. That was a guarantee. But
I kind of thought about it after, and I'm like, damn, I go, last week, I don't know if we were recording it or not. I think Matt and I were already on, and you went somewhere. And I'm like, Matt, I go, I'm going to start. Let's talk about busting Whitey. We'll start Reddick and like we'll get you fired up before the show. And I think I said it. I don't know if it was recorded. I go, I don't trust the 8 car or the 18 car. Whenever they have speed, I don't trust them at all.
That was when we were coming back. Yeah, it was off radio.
Look at what happened. The 8 and the 18 done. And I'm like, oh my God, did I just totally jinx Whitey?
Well, you want to know what? I jinxed myself from the bat because Friday I got my brand new playoff t-shirt, the Tyler Reddick playoff shirt, came from NASCAR.com. And I wore it up to the Harding hole on Saturday. And as the first thing I walk in, I go, oh, I had to wear the playoff shirt. Might be the only night I get to wear it while he's still in.
I remember that.
Fucked myself,
remember that.
You know?
Yep. I remember that. But Whitey, the reason I brought it up, I don't want to say I'm proud of you, but I thought you would have been a way more shook up and, kind of in your own head about this whole thing. So I'm glad to see you're not really down on the Dubs. You didn't text us saying, hey, like, I'm not feeling good. Yeah, I'm on the Fort Jenkins Bridge. You better get here.
No, I didn't. But the first thing I did text you guys this morning was fuck Chase Briscoe, which has been a long-running joke in our text message threads. But no, it is what it is, especially this season. How many different winners do we have right now? 19. 21 if you count the All-Star race and the whatchamacallit, the duels for Daytona. So, almost half the field is won races, It's just such a crazy, it kind of goes back to last week where I'm like, is there too much parity for the playoffs, where it's like, you can't even survive having one bad race in the playoffs regularly, Now you add just the unknown of literally anyone can win at any time. It's the first time ever we've had 3 playoff races and a playoff driver hasn't won them,
I love it.
Which it's very interesting. Sorry, it makes for fun, but at the same time, it kind of makes for a busted playoff system, in my opinion.
Right.
You know what's crazy too? We have 19 winners. Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., and Brad Keselowski aren't one of them.
Yeah.
That's
which
crazy.
Yeah.
Which, you could make an argument for Brad Keselowski. Okay, he's in a new situation and everything. Makes sense.
You can't now.
Well, yeah. But he kind of gets that pass where it's like, oh, he's not Brad in the 2 car that you expect to win. He's Brad in the 6 car, which we kind of understand, But Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., 2 guys I figure would have at least won 1. Martin Truex Jr. usually has 3 wins on the season, and those guys can win at any time. Michael McDowell can win at the road course.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. can win Talladega.
Yeah, there's still a lot of unknowns. Eric Almirola can win at
Justin Haley can win Talladega.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns going on. It's very interesting. It is fun, but also just trying to predict who's going to win a championship, almost impossible at this point.
Oh no, it's not. Christopher Bell.
Well, Christopher Bell, yeah.
As of now, yeah.
No, for real. But at the same time, how many times have we gone through this? 4 weeks ago, we were going, man, Kevin Harvick really stepped it up the last 2 weeks. He could be a championship 4 contender. And he's eliminated in the round of 16. Tyler Reddick, he's not the favorite to win at any track, but he could win at any track, eliminated from the round of 16. You want
to know what we didn't talk about, what I wanted to talk about?
What's that?
Ross Chastain.
Kind of non-existent.
No. Nobody's done anything.
Running well too.
I think
under the radar,
and nobody's done anything unless
I think they're waiting. I think they're saving it for this round. Maybe Rowdy with nothing to lose takes some revenge at the Roval.
How wrong was I last week?
Martin
I said there was going to be fifth flying after this race, but the way the race went on, there was not even an opportunity to battle somebody that hard to piss them off enough to even have a fight after this.
The only angry drivers are angry at NASCAR and the car itself. Like they weren't, they weren't angry at any other drivers. So yeah, kind of.
Could you imagine if someone swung on Steve O'Donnell this weekend?
Oh my God.
But like, Matt, you're right though. That's like, Bristol seems like the place where they think safe enough to spin somebody. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those tracks where like, okay, you could get somebody back there. And you're right, man. Chastain is he just keeps getting by.
He's cruising, man. He's cruising. And he's in the top 4 right now. So I don't know. Should be interesting. Very exciting. Anything else to add to the race weekend though?
No, I think we're good. I'll see you guys next week.
Well, first the choose. Well, no, not even the choose come. First, we gotta tell you who came in last here on the Bumper Run podcast. Everyone loves to talk about the winner, Chris Buescher. Anyways, but here on the Bumper Run podcast, we like to talk about the loser. You know, I just brought that up to Bree the other day because I was talking about like, you know, I get stuck in these rhythms and like breaking habits. And the one is Matt made the joke because I always go, do you guys want to do this? And he goes, what if we say no? You know, what if we say no? What are you going to do? And it's exactly what I just did. I'm just going to keep on going and ignore it. You know,
see you later.
Well, see you later. So I've been trying to rephrase things like, all right, let's jump into whatchamacalls. Anyways, I have something set for next week. Just wait. Anyways, here on the Bumper Run podcast, everyone loves to talk about the winner, Chris Buescher, on a Monday. But we also like to talk about the loser, one Martin Truex Jr., just one of many drivers that had steering issues, mostly Toyotas. But steering issue took him out early in the race. It also took out Ty Gibbs. He eventually got back on track. Steering issues for Ty Dillon, Eric Almirola, and Chase Briscoe, who Briscoe finished on the lead lap, but he lost power steering like really early on. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with these steering boxes. A lot of angry drivers over that, like we talked about. There's a lot of angry drivers over shitty parts.
I couldn't imagine getting around Bristol for 500 fucking laps with no power steering.
No.
Briscoe probably can't lift his arms today. Like
dead.
There's like
Dead.
He has to be sore as shit.
Chase Elliott, I'm pretty sure. Chase Elliott had to do it 2 or 3 years ago too. Something happened with his power steering, and he didn't have it for the remainder of the race. God, man! Like Eric, you used to have a Mustang, an old Mustang without power steering, so you know how hard that was just driving on the streets, let alone racing.
My buddy had an old Jeep that didn't have power steering when we were in high school, and you had to literally just start moving before you could steer.
You have to give it gas in order to turn. Yeah,
like, you're like you can't parallel park and start swinging that wheel around.
Forget about it. Forget about parallel parking.
But you got to plan out your trips and stuff for when you're taking a car like that out. But yeah, just a rough day for steering issues, rough day for tires, just a lot of parts failures, blown engines, just a rough day, rough night in Darlington. But let's move on.
It was also a rough night in Bristol.
Oh yeah, you know what? For some reason, I've been saying Darlington all day long. I was doing, I got this new board. I was doing a little testing with my microphone. I kept saying Darlington, and Joey Logano is the winner for some reason.
You know what? Should we just restart?
You want to start? Oh yeah, welcome to the Bumper Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Christopher Buescher type of weekend. He was the big winner down in Bristol for the night race.
Whitey springs up in the middle of the night in bed just yelling that. Welcome to the Bumper Run podcast. We've gone off the rails here.
Yeah, we are going off the rails. Let's wrap things up a little bit, but first we got to choose cone. I got one pickle lane, and I think I know why things are going a little off the rails. So far this season, we've had one off weekend, right? Tough on drivers, really tough on crews. Looking at the 2023 schedule, same deal. Only one off weekend in between when Fox ends and when NBC takes over in the middle of June. I don't even know what the question is to pose. Matt, you kind of came up with this one. You pose a question. What do we need to do something? Are you guys fatigued? I feel fatigued, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of tee this one up. Yes, we need more off weeks. And I know how that sounds because you're like, if you're listening to us, you're like, well, what are you talking about? It's racing. We love racing. Why would we want to take that away? Why would we want to take more away?
Because we never miss it.
Correct. Correct. So obviously Eric and I were huge football fans. From February through late August, it's like, oh my God, I just can't wait for football to come back. And then, actually from football ends in February, right? Super Bowl's done in February. I'm good February, March, April, May. Once the summer starts rolling around, it's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm trying.
After the draft, you're kind of peaked. You're like, oh, what's going on with this?
Once August hits, it's been 6 or 7 months without football, and it's like, let's go. And it's just, once the season starts, I'm so invested into it because I've waited all year for it. Where with NASCAR, we get 3 months off and then it's right back into it. It's essentially a holiday break. We get Thanksgiving, we get Christmas, turn of the new year, and
then you start to miss like mid-January. You're like,
NASCAR again.
Yeah. And then like in previous seasons, we would have 3 off weeks. So where it's like, oh, it's off this week. And then by the time next week rolls around, you're like, oh man, NASCAR. Oh, I missed NASCAR because it wasn't on last week.
I'm used to the way it was with having those 3 and the way they split it up. And I think now that it's not there, if you've been a fan for that long and now you're in that transition to this one-off weekend, I think we could feel it. And if we could feel it, what is the teams and drivers, like you said, feeling? So
I just go back to what I said, in a previous pick a lane, whether it was this year or last year, I can't remember, where we said, is the season too long? And the answer for me is yes. I know I don't speak for everybody. I think I speak for us 3 at least.
Yeah.
The season's too long, where it's 36 races. If we trimmed it all the way to an even 30 races, the season would essentially, we have 7 races left. The season will be ending next week. I think that'd be perfect.
That would be perfect.
Imagine if the season was ending next week. And I think what got me really going, thinking about this, was like yesterday, because we had the NFL played, the race was on Saturday night. So I was able to really concentrate on the NFL. If the race was going yesterday, let's say a 3:30 start, I would have missed the amazing ending of the New York Jets football game because I would have been watching the race, right?
Yeah.
We do this podcast. I obviously love NASCAR. I would have been over watching the race. I would have missed the ending. So I don't know. It's, again, I know I don't speak for everyone because not all NASCAR fans are football fans, but for a large majority of NASCAR fans that are football fans, it'd be perfect if we had that 30-week schedule.
Now, my thing is a little bit, I'll go in a different route here. So the football schedule, 18 weeks, they get a bye week. Come playoffs, the number 1 seed gets byes before they have to play. So it's like NASCAR is 36 weeks and they get 1 bye week essentially in 36 weeks. Yeah. So it's like, and there's no bye before the playoffs. The number 1 seed doesn't get to, the first round of the playoffs, Chase Elliott doesn't have to drive in any of those races. He gets to automatically go to the 12th. No, that doesn't happen. He still has to go every week, make that travel, go to the racetrack. And that's 36 weeks of constant go. And this year, I think with the way that the car has impacted the bodies of these drivers with these impacts, I've heard a lot more voicing their opinion of the season is too long. Yeah. I know Martin Truex Jr. was always one of them that says it's too long. And, there's other drivers, I think, that are kind of more open to that. And, not only does it go to the physical side of it, the mental drain of it, But then you also allow for, your other drivers to go do what they want to do and maybe clear their head a little bit and get an extra, break out of there. Go run your dirt car somewhere and clear your head, or, it's a grueling schedule. And, I know I can't say specifics. I'll send this to you, Whitey, but I know you were going back and forth with another podcast, and even they admitted, or a Twitter handle it might have been, that they even admitted, hey, I'm kind of burnt out too. So we're not alone, and that kind of made me feel good seeing other, just people that follow beat writers being like, man, this has been a long season.
And it's not just this season, too, because I remember feeling this way last year and the year before. It's always right around now, right? When football is coming into full bloom. We're a couple weeks into the season. The storylines in football are starting to take off, so I want to be paying more and more attention to that, as well as having this NASCAR thing. And then, of course, we have our work lives, our personal lives. So it's just a lot going on this type of year, where it's getting harder and harder to fully invest into NASCAR. Not that we don't. Again, of course we're going to. We love the sport. I don't mean to sound like we're complaining. It's just, I feel like, again, we're kind of the.
But I think everybody could relate. I think they understand. I think they could relate to it. But now my thing is, what if we've run? How did they work in those 3 off weekends before this?
There was Mother's Day, there was Easter, and then
was
the natural
schedule just longer? Did it just extend into November a lot longer, and now it's not because they shortened that up?
The season always wrapped the weekend before Thanksgiving. The Sunday before Thanksgiving was Championship Sunday.
So
now it's like the first Sunday in November, I think.
So you had Easter off. Mother's Day was off, but there was the Saturday night Kansas race before that.
They always used to have a bye week before the summer Daytona race too, because a lot of guys spent the 2 weeks leading up to that race in the Daytona area.
And that's basically the one off week we have. It's not right before Daytona. Well, it's not right before the 4th of July, but it's in between those 2 races at the end of June. So, and then there was always a break at some point in August, I believe it was. Might have been right before Indianapolis, right before the Brickyard. I'd have to go back and look at all the schedules, but there was definitely 3 off weeks, and there was a couple more night races that gave you open Sundays. I
liked your idea though, Whitey, earlier in our text thread, where like Matt even said, and your math, it works out. I guess if you take out
the double races, so how do you fix the problem? Take out all the races that we go somewhere twice, maybe leave Charlotte and the Roval alone, and Bristol Dirt alone, because they are 2 different types of races. But everything else, we don't have to go to Las Vegas twice, we don't have to go to Richmond twice.
And you take those away, you knock off 6 races, get that even 30, shorten the schedule down. And I think that,
and you got that would work. You got to go to Talladega and Daytona twice. Keep those on. So you just cut everything else, and that cuts off 4 races. That's 4 weekends that you either end earlier, or you could spread it out a little bit throughout the year. So you at least just get some off weeks. I'm just you want to know what? I don't like Saturday night races either, because of doing this podcast, because I like to have the race on Sunday, jump into the podcast Monday. It's still fresh. You have that day in between. I feel like today's a Tuesday show, and I hate doing Tuesday shows because I feel like the rhythm's always off because there's that gap in between, So I don't know, man. It's just the season's been grueling.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and there's very little absence in NASCAR.
Yeah. And you think back to when the playoffs were invented, it was to create drama near the end of the season, so people kept tuning in because the ratings were going down, because we were going against football. We have the playoffs and the ratings are still going down because we're going against football regardless, and now we have the drama. So
Right, end the season before football even gets into swing, so that
That's
you
what I'm
have
trying to
everyone's
say.
attention beforehand, like Matt is saying. Yeah,
you end
don't
it
even
around.
get involved with the football fans and the crossover. Get it done beforehand. You end that 4 weeks earlier, like you're saying. That's not even going to be a problem.
Yeah, you end it here before October 1st, and then you have week 3 through whatever for the NFL. You don't have to worry about competing for, So I don't know. Let us know what you think in the YouTube comments. Let us know on Twitter at @BumpTheLetterNRunPod. Is the season too long? Are we being crybabies? I don't know. Let us know. I'd be intrigued.
Let us know if we have to get it together.
Yeah, do we have to get it together? I don't know. Let us know. What I do know is we are heading to the Lone Star State of Texas.
Yes, Nebraska.
Yes, Nebraska. Where the Albatrosses, never forget the Albatross. No, we're going to the Alamo in Texas. We can find the racetrack in the basement. Huey's Big Adventure. That's what I thought. All right. Anyways, Xfinity on track Saturday, 3:30 on USA for the Andes Frozen Custard 300. Cups on track 3:30 for the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 500 on USA. And to go over our picks from last week, let's see. Eric is the loser. He picked Eric Jones. He got you 16 points. You picked first this week. Matt picked Kyle Larson. He got you 40 points. Got you a top 5 finish. But I picked Chris.
I've had an epic downfall in our picks.
You have, but you're still in it. You're still in it. Eric this week kind of helped you out. We're catching up. And I won the weekend. I picked Christopher Bell. He got me a third place finish and 52 points because he scored stage points in every stage. He got the most points out of anyone fantasy wise on Saturday. So I pick last, Matt picks second, and Eric picks first. But first, Matt, give us those stats we need. Give us the Vegas odds as of today, so we can make an educated bet.
The odds to win the race, these lines are provided by DraftKings, like I always do. We'll go from the top 10 favorites here, from 10 down to our favorite. We do have a 3-way tie at the top of this board with Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, and Tyler Reddick all at a plus 1,500 to win in Texas. Then you've got Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, and William Byron all tied with a plus 1,200 to win. You've got Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney at plus 1,000. And then your top 3, you've got Chase Elliott is plus 700. And then you've got a 2-way tie for a favorite to win in Texas, both at plus 600. You've got Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin.
Not my pick, but what were the odds on Tyler Reddick?
Plus 1,500.
Throw $1 or $2 on him before qualifying.
No, I don't think I will.
No, he does really well at Texas. I don't think he's ever finished outside the top 5. And
okay.
And I bet you they bring a really good car. They could bring a really good car. Where if he qualifies better and he gets a good qualifying position, those odds are gonna go up, and you might be able to cash out early and win some extra money anyways. So
good to know.
All right, well, if I'm starting off, I already know who I'm going with. It's going to break the streak of non-playoff drivers winning. We have someone that we hinted earlier that Matt brought up that says, wait, what about this guy that we haven't talked about? It seems like in forever was a hot shot to start the season. I'm going to go with Ross Chastain.
Ooh, haven't seen much out of Ross lately. But he's
consistent,
due.
Though. Running consistent. Playoffs are coming in. He's keeping calm, keeping quiet. That payback is coming. Will it be this week so that he doesn't make it out of this round? We'll see.
All right. That puts me up next. I'm not going to overthink this. The guy's been hot. He hasn't finished outside of the top 5 in a decade. I'm going with Christopher Bell here. The only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitancy is that Toyota's had so many problems over the past few weeks, but Christopher Bell hasn't. So he's been consistent. He's been knocking on the door. Usually in NASCAR, when you knock on the door, you do finally kick it open. So I say Christopher Bell gets the win in Texas. Also, I think he would be pretty funny to see in a cowboy hat. So I want to see that.
Let's see. I think Bell's a great pick. I do. I think Ross Chastain's a great pick. I think anybody in the playoffs could win at Texas. But I'm going to go. Well, he is in the playoffs still. He just didn't win a race yet. I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. He won the All-Star race in the spring. He hasn't won a race yet. But I think he might be the first playoff driver to win a race in the playoffs. And it'll be his first race of the season.
That would be a cool storyline. Didn't win a race all year, and the first win is in the playoffs. That'd be cool.
It's been a wacky season. You can't rule anything out.
Yeah, it'll probably be Joey Logano.
Such a wacky season. Just such a weird season.
But give me Ryan Blaney. Do we have any head-to-heads this week, or are they not up yet?
Nope.
Yeah,
they no longer post them.
All right.
At least not this early in the week.
All right. To recap, the current playoff picture cutoff battle. In 12th place, the round of 12, we've made it. Austin Cindric is -7. Daniel Suarez, -6 in 11th. He's tied with Alex Bowman, who's also -6 in 10th. And then Chase Briscoe is -4. I did not expect Chase Briscoe or Alex Bowman to make it this far. I didn't expect Daniel Suarez either, and Eric picked him as a dark horse. Above the cut line, Ryan Blaney is in 8th, +4. In 7th, Christopher Bell is also +4. In 6th, Denny Hamlin is also +4. And in 5th, William Byron is +6. Man, him and Bowman going from the summer of nothing to killing it in the playoffs so far. Who will go on? Where will the cutoff be next week? We will find out, and we will break it on down for you this Monday night. Of course, the race have 3:30 USA.
Right in the middle of the witching hour in the NFL.
Right in the middle. Will it be Christopher Bell? Will it be, who'd you pick, Eric? I forget already.
Chastain.
Will it be Ross Chastain, or will Ryan Blaney finally get his first win of the season? I don't know what'll happen in Austin or in Texas. We're not going to Austin. Oh, man, I'm a mess. I'm ending it right now. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, we'll talk to you Monday night on the Bumper Run Podcast. Have a good night.
The bump and run.
There it is.